Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In the series of pattern printing, so far we have seen so many patterns. In this video, we will see how we can actually print this particular pattern. So if you could carefully observe this particular pattern, we are having the value 5 in this diagonal, and above and below this particular diagonal, we are having the value 4, and it was keep reducing and going till 1. And we have this similar structure in this particular below diagonal. We are having 4 and it was keep reducing until the value 1 here. So I hope you have found the pattern. So now we will go ahead and see how we can actually print this particular pattern. So in order to print this particular whole pattern, we will divide this particular pattern, and first we will print this above pattern and later we will print this particular below pattern. So by combining both of them, we can get the whole pattern. So let us go ahead and see how we can print this particular above pattern. So in order to print the above pattern, I will use a rows and I will assign with 5 because we have 5 rows in this above pattern, right? So later, if you could observe this particular pattern carefully, we are having spaces along with these particular numbers. So in order to print these spaces, in order to keep track of these spaces, I will take a variable spaces here. So and I will assign the value for these spaces as 0 because in the first row, if you could carefully observe, we don't have any spaces before the numbers. So for that reason, I am taking the spaces as 0. So later, according to this pattern, we will adjust the spaces. So in order to print this many number of rows, I will use a for loop. So for I in range. So now we will be generating a range of values so that we can able to print all of these values. So for that, I will be taking this particular diagonal which is here having the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So by taking this diagonal as a base, we can able to get all of these values. So for the time being, let us take this diagonal as a base. So for that, I will start with 1 and I will go till the value of rows plus 1. So that is what we are having here. By mentioning this rows plus 1, I can able to go till the value 5. So here in this for loop, I will just print the value I so that we can know what values we are having in I. So here we have the exact values that what we have expected, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here in this diagonal values. So if you could compare these particular I values and with this particular pattern, in every single row, we are starting with the value I and going till the value 5. In the first row, we are starting with the value 1, which is I here, and going till the value 5. In the second row, we are starting with the value 2, which is I, and going till the value 5. So like that, in every single row, we are starting with the value I and going till the value 5. So these are repeated, right? So when we have repeated statements, we go for loops. So for j in range, so now we will be using a range of values. So as we have discussed, in every single row, starting with I and going till the value 5. So for that, I will be mentioning rows plus 1 here. So inside of this particular pattern, we will be printing j instead of I here. So for that, I am mentioning j here. So now you can able to see we are having the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5 and 5. So these are the exact values that we are having in this particular above pattern. So now we have got the values. So the only thing we need to do is that we need to arrange those values so that we can able to get the whole pattern. So for that, in order to arrange them, first of all, I am mentioning this end parameter as a space in this print function because by default this print is having new line character. So because of that reason, we are getting all these values in the new lines. So if I execute this, we can able to get everything in a single line. So you need to observe this particular pattern. After once this particular row reaching to the value I, we are getting a new line and starting again. So for that, this inner for loop is responsible for starting with I going till the value 5. So after completion of this one for loop of this inner for loop which reaches to the value 5, we need to get a new line. So for that reason, as and when we have completed this inner for loop, I am mentioning a print statement so that it will give a new line by the help of this end parameter default value, which is new line. So now if I execute this, we can able to get the pattern in this way. So now, as we have discussed earlier, we are having these spaces before these particular numbers. So first we need to print these spaces so that we can able to get the exact pattern. So for that, as and when we enter into this outer for loop, I am mentioning a print statement, and in this print I am mentioning a space and multiplying with a spaces variable, which is what we are using in order to keep track of the spaces. So here I am mentioning end as nothing because by default print is having new line character of end, so I don't want any new line. For that reason I am mentioning with nothing. So after that, if you could observe this pattern, in every single row completion we are getting a new space is increased. So you can see the spaces are getting increased in this particular pattern. So for that, after completion of this inner for loop, I am increasing the spaces with 1. So for that, so that we can able to get the exact pattern. So now if I execute this, we can able to get the exact pattern that is here in this above pattern. So now we have got the above pattern. So let us go ahead and see this below pattern. Before seeing this below pattern, so far if you found this video interesting, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. So going ahead, we will see how we can generate this below pattern. We will follow the similar procedure to generate this below pattern for what we have followed for above pattern. So in order to generate this many number of rows, we will use a for loop for k in range. We will use a range of values in order to generate all values. For that, we need to take a base values, which I will be taking this particular diagonal, which are having the values 4, 3, 2, 1. So for that, I will be using rows minus 1. This rows having the values as 5. So for that, I am reducing with minus 1 so that I will start with 4. So from rows minus 1, we need to go till the value 1. For that, I am mentioning 0. Later, I will be mentioning 1. So if you found any confusion in understanding this range, I sincerely suggest you to watch my video about range function so that you can clearly understand how we are using these values inside of this range function. So in this for loop, I will use a print statement in order to know what values we are having in k. So you can see we have got the exact values that what we have in this diagonal, which are 4, 3, 2, 1. So now if you could able to compare this particular pattern, we are starting with 5 in every single row and going till the value of k here. You can observe in first row we are having the value 4, and here we are starting with 5 and going till the value k. In the second row we are starting with 5 going till the value of k, which is 3 here. Like that, these are repeating in every single row. So for that, when we have repeated statement, we go for loops, right? So for that, I will be using one more loop for L in range. So as we have discussed, in every single row, it was starting with 5, so that I am mentioning rows, and it was going till the value of k. So for that, I will be mentioning k minus 1, and we need to decrease the values, right? We are decreasing in every single row. For that reason, I am reducing with minus 1. So inside of this for loop, instead of printing this particular L value, k value, I will print the value L here. So by executing this, you can observe we are got 5, 4, 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So these are the exact values that we are having in this particular below pattern. So now we have got the values. The only thing we need to do now is that we need to arrange those values so that we can able to get the whole pattern. So in order to arrange, first we will be using this end parameter here with space. So after that, as we have discussed in above pattern also, after once we have reached to this particular k value, which is starting with 5 and going till the value k in this range. So we need to print a new line. So for that, I am just putting a print so that it will print a new line. So now if I execute this, we have got this particular pattern. So we need to print spaces before this particular pattern, so to get the exact pattern. So for that, what I will be doing is that as and when I enter into this outer for loop, I will be using a print in order to print spaces. So as like above, I am following the same procedure. I am printing this particular space and multiplying with spaces variable, which is what we are using to keep track of spaces, right? So in the end, I don't mention anything. So at last, what we will be doing is that if you compare this pattern, the spaces are keep reducing, right? So in order to reduce the spaces, I will be mentioning spaces minus equal to 1. So now if I execute this, still we haven't get the exact pattern. The reason is that the spaces are not exactly aligned. So we are using spaces variable for both above and below pattern. For that reason, we need to arrange these spaces after once we print the above pattern. So to know what value we are having in spaces, I am printing spaces here. So here we are having the value 5. So next what we will be doing is that we need to modify the spaces to get the exact pattern. So if you could carefully observe this below pattern, we are having only 3 spaces, but in this spaces variable we are having 5. So we need to reduce these spaces by 2 in order to get the exact pattern. So I am mentioning space minus 2 to reduce the spaces by 2. So now if I execute this, we can able to get the exact pattern that what we have expected above. So in this diagonal we are having the values 5 5 and above we are having 4. Like this we are having this pattern in above and below. So I hope so far you have got understand this particular logic to generate this pattern. So if you find any difficulty while understanding this logic, I sincerely suggest you to watch the video once again carefully so that you can understand it clearly. So now we will dynamically take input of these rows. So for that I am mentioning an input asking to enter rows. So now if I execute this, so if I give the value let's say 3 here, we have got the pattern which is having in this diagonal value as 3 and above and below we have got the symmetric values. So if I give let's say 8 here, so still we can able to get the pattern, the diagonal having 8 and above and below having these particular symmetric values. So I hope you have understood this logic to generate this kind of a pattern by any number given by the user. So if you found this video interesting, hit the like button. In the next video, we will see how we can print this particular pattern. So if you could carefully see this pattern, in middle we have 1 and to the right side and the left side, the values are keep increasing. So to see this particular pattern and to keep updated with my new videos, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications to all so that whenever I upload any video, you will get the notification. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.